good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. We are thrilled that you are here this glorious Monday morning. It's already 71 degrees here in beautiful Tampa Bay. The sun is out, it's gorgeous, the humidity is down, and no, you may not come here. We are full. You may come to Tampa and stay at some of our fine hotels, Tampa Bay, maybe stay on the beach. Stay for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, then back to the snow, buddy. That's how we do it. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. Again, today is going to be a very, very interesting day, today and tomorrow, um, on Truth Social. And again, I apologize for people who are, all about Truth Social. I was saying it was booty because it was not available on Android. It is, and it was when I said that. So my apologies. Um, President Trump has announced that he is headed out in about an hour and a half to New York. He'll be at Trump Tower, and then tomorrow he will turn himself in to be photographed and fingerprinted like he needs to be photographed and fingerprinted because he's a flight risk. Because he could just disappear. No, it's like we said before. The left wants desperately to get that mugshot of Trump holding up a little placard that says Donald J. Trump on it and a number. They want to get that, out there in the New York Times as soon as possible. Now like I know, that one of the leftist newspapers there, or one of them, the New York Times, or somebody, or the I don't know, National Enquirer, has ready to write the biggest check they've ever written because someone will lose their job and their certification and will have to start a new life, but they're ready to write the biggest check they've ever written for a single photograph ever, to get this photograph and get it out on the internet as soon as possible. My guess, it'll be out less than an hour after it's taken, because this is what the left wants. They understand. They do. Maybe not the people on Facebook, and some of the people on Twitter, but most of the people who are in the progressive left, in the elite, know that these charges aren't going to stick. But that's not the point. The point is to sully and damage Trump as much as possible. Why? Well, they don't want him to win and be president in 2024. So you'll say, well, why don't they just cheat? Well, because you can do some of these things once. A lot of places like Florida, like Texas and Georgia have changed their election laws that have made it more difficult. So when he doesn't win, people don't lose their mind. They can go, the media and these other politicians can go and you say, you see, America doesn't want a president who's a criminal. It's all a setup. I believe it's all a setup. And why is Bragg doing this? Because he's ready to be the guy that brought down Trump. The dude ran. He ran on bringing down Trump. He ran for DA of Manhattan District because he was the dude that was going to bring down Trump. Now, his name is Alvin Bragg. He's infamous for downgrading criminal charges. Actually, he's dropped more than half of all felonies to misdemeanors last year. More than half of all felonies have been dropped to misdemeanors. It's part of his criminal coddling ideology. This idea is like, if we don't get people in the system, they won't stay in the system, and they won't blah 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 blah. But in the meantime, the people who suffer for it are the citizens, the people who are just working folks trying to go to work and go home and take care of their kids and pay their bills. And those are the people who are the victims of crime. And more importantly, the people who are the victims of crimes are the people who are the middle and lower class. These people who are committing felonies aren't committing felonies against the elites. They're committing felonies against you and I. And they're being protected and sent back into those communities to, you know, do more harm, do more damage. So that's why so many people who have been paying attention at all look at Alvin Bragg's attempt to basically manufacture a felony to bring down Donald Trump as okay, so this is not what this guy normally does. This is actually the antithesis of what this dude normally does. The antithesis. So thus it's political. My thought is that it's going to backfire in a way. I mean, when they were trying to impeach Trump the second time, well, what did we say here? We said all they're doing is building a bigger and badder Trump, which didn't allow President Trump to leave office in 2020, and then just sort of drift into the background. It didn't allow him to do that. When you are impeaching a dude who's no longer in office, that keeps him relevant. It's the left that kept Trump relevant. They could have just let it go. They could have. They could have. And that would have been the brightest thing. But we've said here 1,000 times since we've been doing broadcasting here, since I've been doing broadcasting either here on YouTube or on Blog Talk Radio or WGUL 860 here in Tampa, that the left always goes too far. They always go too far, which is part of their charm. Now, because they've gone too far, they allowed Trump to stay relevant instead of just dropping it and letting the natural attrition of ex-presidents happen. And it could have. Very much could have. Especially with the ascent of people like Ron DeSantis, Greg Abbott. The what was going to be the natural ascent of dudes like that would have more than taken care of, I think, long term, any dealings with Donald Trump. As Donald Trump gets older, he's but 76 years old now. But they couldn't let it go because so many of them, their power, their influence is based on getting Trump, get Trump, and their ego as well. So now we as a nation, again, have to deal with the left's obsession, the Trump derangement syndrome that, frankly, fuels the president's ego and his idea is not when he gets to fight or fight. President Trump is fight every single time, fight every single time. Ben Shapiro said it best. Sometimes Trump hits a home run, sometimes he hits a baby. And this fight that they're in, this struggle, the victims, the people who are getting hurt, are the citizens of the country. The left could have saved us all this struggle, but they chose not to because they are so afraid of Trump. They are terrified of Donald Trump. And not just terrified of Donald Trump, they're terrified of anybody who would support Donald Trump. Because they are not, with all of this stuff that Alvin Bragg is doing in Manhattan, they've not scared off any Trump supporters. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. What's happened since the indictment of the president came down, he's raised $4 million for his reelection campaign. Best thing that ever happened. Didn't have to send out one flyer, didn't have to do one commercial, and in a day and a half, 36 hours, $4 million flowing, and it's going to continue. The thing is that the Trump army, Trump supporters, are not going to back off. They're going to do exactly what they see Trump doing. They're going to push forward. So the battle is coming. So we're not going to be able to talk about issues or policies in a rational way, in a way that actually gets things done moving forward with any sort of stability. We're not. It's all going to be hyper emotional, hyperbolic. That's where we're headed, and that's too bad. Why? Because the battle of the egos now is, of course, President Trump. But that was baked in. Don't get pissed off because that was baked in the cake. What we knew is that Donald Trump was an egomaniac. Okay, and we voted for him anyway. That wasn't that wasn't a deal breaker. That's a great. It was not a deal breaker. But there is problem. The problem is that the idea of downshifting, landing the plane, getting out of the way, is not in his nature. It's just not in his nature. Good decision or bad decision. He should have fired Fauci. You should have fired him. Now, what that would have done would have created a bigger, badder Fauci. I get that too. But he should have distanced himself from Fauci. He should have distanced himself from all those people who he knew were blowing COVID out of proportion and who were suggesting and people were following rules and regulations that were unconstitutional. He should have separated himself from that. He should have. It is not an unreasonable argument. It's not even an anti-Trump or pro-DeSantis or pro-Abbott argument to say that the mRNA vaccine, now this will probably get me in trouble, was pushed by the Trump administration. So whatever happened, there is maybe some culpability for Donald Trump. He was the president at the time. Operation Warp Speed did produce or help push out the mRNA, right? So is there a connection and culpability there? It is a reasonable argument, and we should have a reasonable discussion about that. I think we should. I think it's perfectly okay if we can have that in a reasonable, rational way. Now, I understand while this was going on, a lot of us didn't have any idea what was going on, and it seemed to be a worldwide thing, and people were doing their best. This is the basis of COVID amnesty. But now that we know, can we have that conversation? The answer is no, we cannot, because we are tied up in the hyper emotionality and the hyperbole of Trump the world. You are with us or against us. Either you're MAGA or you're a Marxist. And that's not true. It's not true. Well, the president ought to be taken off in just a little bit from Mar-a-Lago, headed to New York. Again, according to Truth Social, he will. be residing in Trump Tower um, tonight and turn himself in to authorities tomorrow. Till we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. Bye now.